So I can't believe I've only been back in Florida for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and I'm already getting the itch to travel again, especially after the kind of year I had last year. Someone told me it's kind of like having a baby, and you forget the pain and you remember all the great experiences you had and all the new friends you made, and just remember the good things. And there were a lot of good things. I really had a lot of fun traveling in Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota and the Upper Peninsula. It was a lot of fun. And next year, unlike last year when I made my plans, I already know I'm going to have my Jeep with me, and that will help me when I'm planning. Last year I had to kind of rush and change some plans at the last minute, or just go with the fact that I had a Jeep on a tow dolly with me and I had to make it work. Did I show you how good I've gotten at backing in my tow dolly? No more tow dolly dolly needed, but the tow dolly dolly did save my butt in the beginning before I was able to back in just using my RV. And it gave me more confidence to start on the trip with a Jeep and a tow dolly, which was something completely new to me. Anyway, next year I think my game plan is going to be to stay longer in one campground and kind of do day trips out rather than to keep moving forward like I did last year, which is really the only way that I could have traveled through the Upper Peninsula. Next year, I'm hoping to go to Arizona, Montana, and North Dakota and South Dakota. And in those areas, I'll be where I can stay for a month. There's enough to do in the area where I can just span out and take day trips. And these are some of the tips that I'm going to share with you today. Things that I've learned traveling the past year and a half and living full-time in my RV that have made my life easier, more comfortable, less stressful, and overall more enjoyable. The first tip is to make your RV yours. Make it work for you. I made it mine, and I did things to make this tiny space work for me. I went from a 3,000 square foot house to less than 200 square feet of living space, and I very rarely feel cramped because of the changes I've made. Contrary to popular belief, I took out my dinette for more floor space and to help me feel not so claustrophobic, and I didn't worry about the resale value. My RV, Daisy, has been YouTube famous before, and some of the people who knew her before in her previous life are not necessarily happy with all of the changes I've made. But I am not the people who owned her before me. They made some great changes of their own. She was by no means original. The wood cabinets had been painted. They put in a mini split, a composting toilet, and a lot of other things to make it more comfortable for them. Many of those things were the reason that I bought Daisy to begin with. They were things that I was looking for on my list for an RV. But after living and traveling for a year and a half, there are things that I've found to make things more comfortable for me. For example, the people who owned her before me slept in the upper bunk, which is only about this much headroom, and you have to climb a ladder to get up there. I'm a little older than they were, and I wanted a dedicated bedroom. So I used the back area that had 2 couches that folded into a larger bed. I threw my Tempur-Pedic mattress on that and turned it into a full-time queen-size bedroom. I'm living and traveling in this RV for the next 3 to 5 years. That's a long time to not have things be exactly the way you want them to be. Just like many people have a house or an apartment to put their things in that they buy and collect, my RV is my house. It's a 200 square foot house, but it's a place to keep my stuff while I travel on the road and see the things I want to see. Number 2, your needs will constantly change. As you grow and learn more about your RV, your first RV may not be the RV that is perfect for you. I've struggled with that a lot over the past year and a half, and I've made the decision that if I'm going to continue to travel the way that I want to travel, this RV is perfect for me. She's small enough where I can get into smaller spaces in national parks or certain campgrounds where you have to be under 28 feet. I can travel quickly. I love the solar setup on the RV, and I don't want to invest $25,000 in a solar setup and a new RV. So as long as I'm traveling, I will keep this RV. There are things as time progresses that I feel I don't need anymore, like a tow dolly dolly. There are things that I feel would make my life even more comfortable. For example, keeping your RV cool in the summer in Florida is not an easy job. And while the mini split works really well, it's not on Wi-Fi, and I can't just turn it on and off at will. If I ever replace the mini split, it will certainly be a Wi-Fi mini split. The other thing is, if it's 95 or 100 degrees out, I can't get this RV cooler than about 80 degrees, and that's still hot. So I did invest in a small portable air conditioner that does have Wi-Fi, so that if I've left the house in the morning and it's cooler and I'm gone for a few hours and I realize that it's getting warmer in the RV than I want it to be for the dogs, I can go on my phone and turn on the AC. I haven't tested it yet. I'll be testing it this week, and I'll let you know how that goes. Another thing with this particular RV is the spare tire goes into a storage compartment outside and takes up a lot of space. So I also am going to try, see if it works or not, I'm going to try a hitch mount for this spare tire to see if I can get the spare tire out of the storage compartment so I can get a nice grill for outside and have a place to put it. I'm always looking at what is not working for me anymore and trying to change it to make it so that it does work for me. One nice thing about being in Florida for the winter, other than the warm weather, is that I can test these things out to see if they work for me before I leave my home base where it's harder to get things and make changes. So Florida is kind of my testing ground. Tip number 3 is to give yourself grace and the gift of time. You may have some extra time on your hands living this lifestyle, so allow yourself the flexibility of getting ready the night before you have to travel, so you're not rushing the day that you have to leave. For me, that includes a plan of action to decide where I'm going to load my tow dolly. I can't always load my tow dolly right at the site I'm on. I may have to go to a staging area. Sometimes there might be an empty campsite next to me. That's a pull-through that I am able to use while I am hooking up my tow dolly. But having a plan of action and not having to scramble the next morning to figure that out makes my life more enjoyable and less stressful. Tip number 4, be flexible. Know that things will almost never go exactly the way you want them to go. And if they do go the way you want them to go, then that's just a bonus for the day. Whether you're stuck on the side of the road waiting for roadside assistance, or something in your RV breaks and needs to be fixed. Is it an urgent situation, or is it something that you can find a backup solution for until you can get it fixed properly? For example, last year when my tire fell apart in Wisconsin, the flapping, it didn't flap for long, but it flapped just long enough to do some damage to my RV step. So it's loose on one end. Now I've looked at it. I can't figure out how to tighten it. I don't want to use it and break it more. So the easiest thing for me to do was just to get a step stool so I can step into my RV easier. And I noticed once I got this step stool that there are a lot of other RVers who have the same exact step stool that they are using for a step, especially in Class C RVs. Right now, my freshwater input is not working. It should be a simple fix. It's 3 screws that you take off and you replace the part. However, it seems to be the original freshwater intake valve from 2005. And this RV is made so well that they glued it on. So I need to get outside on a warm day with a heat gun and see if I can get it off. Hopefully I can do it myself. Otherwise, I may have to have my RV handyman come and do it for me, which will cost me money. So I'm going to try and do it on my own first. But what have I done for the past 2 months since this broke when I was in Michigan? What I've been doing is just filling my fresh water tank and running it on my water pump. I only use the water in the tank or fresh water from the spigot for doing dishes and showering, and I do filter it anyway before I put it in my RV. But it's worked fine for me. And if I were boondocking, I wouldn't be able to hook up to water anyway. So there's always a backup solution. When you're flexible and you allow yourself the kindness of being flexible, everything is not urgent, and it takes a lot of pressure off of you to have to get things fixed right away when you have backup systems in place. And number 5, I like to know exactly where I'm going to be spending the night. I don't want to spend 3 or 4 hours getting where I'm going and then spend another 1 or 2 hours trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to park. Is it level? Is it muddy? I see a lot of women out there on their own who are boondocking more and not quite knowing where they're going to spend the night until they get there and they find that yes, they can stay there, or no, they can't. And a lot of it is free, and I understand free, but sometimes your freedom comes with a price, whether the price is getting stuck or being in the middle of nowhere with no help, or just driving around for 2 hours trying to find a spot and then having to turn around on a road that you can't continue on for whatever reason. And now you're on a dirt road, one lane that you need to try and turn around or back up all the way to the top. I don't have patience for that. So plan according to your comfort level. Everybody's different. I'm not saying everybody should camp like me or travel like me. This is what works for me. And know your comfort level. If you want to push sometimes and expand a little bit, I've done that too by staying with no hookups for 3 to 5 nights. I'm learning my limits, and I'm learning what I feel comfortable with. And the only way to do that is to try and see if you're comfortable. I can't even imagine being comfortable right now with boondocking in the middle of nowhere. But out west, things are different. So I'm not saying, I'm never say never. And I am sure that I will try boondocking out west. From what I understand, there's boondocking communities. So places that you can camp for free that are not necessarily back roads. I don't mind being near people. I like being near people. If I don't like being near the people I'm near, I can move. I don't feel I need to have 2 football fields in between me and the next person, because you never know who you might meet and might be your new best friend. Which leads me to next week, I'll be talking about how to make friends on the road. It's not easy. My first year, I was incredibly lonely, but I learned how to make friends on the road. Some of those friends you might just see for a night or a weekend or a week, and some of them may become lifelong friends. I'll see you next week.